Okay, also sitting at 9.5 or 10 wins, depending where you look in Vegas, is Florida State.
Yeah.
Mike Norvell has done a nice job there. They went 10-3 last year, which was a huge surprise. They had kind of been struggling along, showing some slight improvement so far in his tenure, and then last year it sort of broke right for him. They did lose those 3 games all in a row, and so for a little bit it looked like they were slipping, but then they kind of figured it out again. Huge opportunity for Florida State this year. They have a really experienced team. Jordan Travis is probably one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country. They might have one of the top 5 defensive linemen in the country with Jared Verse returning. Most people thought he would be a first round pick.
Yeah.
Johnny Wilson is back. They also brought in Keon Coleman, the receiver from Michigan State. So they got good receivers. Should have a good passing game. Um, I don't know. Like, where do you want to go with this team? Like, what are your questions about Florida State?
Experience, I think. Like,
Hmm.
how do they react to having this preseason hype? Florida State is a trendy playoff pick right now,
Yeah.
and like that hasn't been the case in a really long time. So I will say, and like my theme overall on Florida State is maybe they're a little overhyped this year. This is a little soon. It feels a little soon because they haven't been here before, and the recruiting hasn't been fantastic. It's been good. It hasn't been elite, right? But Norvell has done a great job after losing Travis Hunter. I mean, your program really could have gone a lot of different ways after that happened. You were kind of made fun of. They rebounded quite well. Like you mentioned, the guys that they've been taking out of the portal, they have elite receivers. Like I think they have a really, really good receiver core. Jordan Travis there another year, kind of Heisman hopeful, like a dark horse Heisman candidate. That's a really good job from Norvell of kind of circling the wagons a little bit after. I mean, that was some bad publicity. It really was. Like that was like it could have gone a lot of different ways. He kept the train on the tracks. They've clearly made some steps forward. I mean, that's
Hmm.
without a doubt. They have really good top end talent. I don't think they have the depth that Clemson does. I don't
Yeah.
think they have like the depth that other potential playoff teams have. So like that's maybe kind of where I was nitpicking them a little bit. That said, this is still a very gettable conference that we've talked about. This is not the SEC. This isn't the Big Ten. Florida State absolutely could win this. They are a
Hmm.
real threat to win this conference. I just view them as a step behind Clemson. I do. I think right now they're a slight favorite overall to win the ACC. That's what I just seen. The last one I just pulled up just a few minutes ago. They were just a very slight favorite over Clemson. I mean, it's kind of a coin flip, really. I don't know. Oh, do you think they beat LSU? Like, do you think they beat
Ooh.
LSU in the opening week? That's a tricky one. LSU's favored by 2.5. It is a neutral site, kind of. It's in Orlando, right?
Right.
They're LSU's favored by 2.5. Clemson's favored by 3 in that game against Florida State. So in your first month, you're a dog in 2 games by a field goal, or yeah, almost that.
Hmm.
Like you have to kind of go through the schedule and break it down with an over under of 9.5. You really have to ask these questions like, where are these losses going to come? I think Florida could be tricky at the end of the year. You have
Sure.
to go to the swamp and play Florida, and that's tough. And if you lose to LSU and Clemson, like you're currently favored to do, and you lose to Florida, that's it. You go under, even if you win all the other games in between. So I don't know. I'm right there. I think 9.5 is a great number for
Hmm.
me. I'm going to lean slightly to the under. I say they go 9-3. I think they drop a game they shouldn't. Yeah, I don't. Just a year too early. They're just a little early. I don't know. I don't trust them yet.
Yeah, I'm with you on a lot of that. The depth part. It's nice that their 2 toughest games are in September. So
Sure.
theoretically, they might still be healthy, and they've played a lot of football together. Most of this team. So I would imagine that right away they are going to be a good team. It's not going to be one of those teams where you really have to grow throughout the course of the season because you got a whole bunch of new starters and they're all growing together and all of that thing. Like when they play
Mm-hmm.
LSU, they should be in good shape. When they play Clemson towards the end of September, they should be in good shape. They do have to go to Clemson. And you asked if I think they're going to beat LSU. I don't know. Like LSU, of all the teams that I view as national title contenders this year, LSU has one of the widest range of like potential outcomes, I guess, just based on what they were last year. They had some
Sure.
incredible games last year. They beat Alabama, but then
Right.
they also like they lost to Texas A&M and just had some really weird head scratching games. So yeah, Florida State can absolutely beat LSU.
Hmm.
I would power rank LSU above them. Like I would tend to view LSU as better than them, but I almost view Florida State's floor as higher. Like I almost trust Florida State a little bit more, although
Really?
I think that LSU has more potential.
Does it help at all that this game, like, okay, Florida State won a year ago, like you mentioned, a
Sure.
crazy game, instant classic. That was
Yeah.
awesome game. So you did beat them a year ago, and granted that was the first game under Brian Kelly. Does that give them a mental edge knowing that we've already done it once? We beat these guys a year ago.
Yeah. I mean, this is the type of game where no matter what happens, like there will be storylines coming out of it that you could have predicted beforehand. Either,
Right.
yeah, Florida State, they had the mental edge because they knew they could do it, or LSU won because they were getting revenge for last year. Like,
Mm-hmm.
some of that is just crap. Like, I don't know. Like, Florida State should be prepared. They're going to play a good game, I think. And I think LSU will probably also show up and play well. I I think I'm with you. I like that there's a 10 here as far as the win total goes, and I'll take the under. I'll join you on that and take it at 10 because that's a little bit of push insurance. I just
Can I have 10 as well? I want
Yeah,
10 as well.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're good on both sides of the ball. I really like this Florida State team, but I'm kind of with you. Kind of what you said about just like Clemson has been recruiting a little better than them, and you can kind of make up for some of that with the portal.
Hmm.
But you're not
Sure.
going to find a ton of just absolute studs in the portal. You're going to fill out your roster, and they did find a few studs. To be fair, in the portal, they
Sure.
found that's where they found Jared Verse and Jordan Travis. But yeah, I don't know. I just trust Clemson a little bit more as far as just the upper end of it, like the top end of it. And I think Garrett
Something
Riley is the difference for that.
something that I thought was interesting was just the difference, the gap in overall team talent. Like you can go into like
Mm-hmm.
24/7, like look at overall team talent. Clemson with a clear edge there in the
Yes.
ACC, and like that does matter. Like when you talk, like you consider like depth and what does it take to be a conference champion, but also like a potential playoff team. It requires that depth. Like I think that's where Clemson is. They're a step above everyone else in that conference. And even though there are some veteran playmakers like Clemson. If Clemson had FSU's receivers, you would pick them to potentially like they could win it all. Like you know what I'm saying? Like they would have
Mm-hmm.
that top end talent to win it all. They don't have like those big physical receivers anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you do like FSU's weapons for sure, and you definitely like the way they're trending. It just feels a little early yet. Like that talent, the talent does matter. The stars do still matter, and Clemson's got a few more right now.
Yeah. Speaking of that talent, Bud Elliott from 24/7 Sports released the blue chip ratio for this year, and
Okay.
Clemson is fifth in the country at 72%. And Florida State, hold on, let me find it. They were not one of the blue chip ratio teams. They
Okay.
were 39 or something. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. If you include transfers for them, you go up to 41%. Without transfers, they were 38%. So that's
Right.
like
And you
pretty
have to be
good.
50, right? Like you have to be at
Right.
50.
The thought process with that is that you have to be at 50 to win the title. You don't have to be
Right.
at 50 to win the playoff or to win the
Mhm.
ACC. Like they can absolutely go to the playoff. They can win the ACC, but I don't feel quite as good about their ceiling as I do about Clemson.
Yeah. And yeah, I think like we're kind of at the same place there.
Yeah.
I think it's a good place. And yeah, they could if they beat LSU week 1, it's
Mhm.
all off. Like they
Yeah.
could yeah, like everything's out there for FSU if they beat LSU week 1. So
Yeah.
they get a chance to prove us wrong. They have an opportunity to prove us wrong. And by the way, teams that do kind of defy the odds of the lack of talent are teams that have a really good quarterback, some really
Yes.
good playmakers on the edge, and a really solid coaching staff. And if you do that and you've got like a really good pass rusher, which they do, like you're really good at some key positions, you can overcome that lack of depth that you have to beat someone in a one-off game. A game's 60 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to play Clemson 12 times. You just get them once. So yeah, like this could happen for Florida State. It does not by any means mean it's over for them. We like the stars that Clemson has, the recruiting rankings that Clemson has a little bit more.
Yeah, Johnny Wilson, by the way, is really explosive. He's a good receiver. I just want him to catch a few more balls. Like, as far as like, don't drop him. Like, just he's one of those receivers that just drops a few too many. Like, yeah. I just want to see that go away this year.
Sure.